Ladies and gentlemen, WeatherBrains episode 478 for March 23rd, 2015. It's the pre-show, the time of the show where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes. We go into rat holes and occasionally say things very outrageous. So I'm here, and what's interesting, if you're watching on the stream here, I am actually streaming this stream on another stream. Boys,
is that legal?
Is that probably illegal in states?
Is it immoral?
Yeah, well, as long as you keep your pants on, it is.
Oh, okay.
Please don't do anything radical here, Brian. No, so this is Meerkat. Again, I'm holding my phone, and we're streaming on Meerkat. Now, I will turn this off in a minute. You talk about a rat hole, man. This is a total rat hole. But no, we're just playing. And what I did, I let people see how the sausage is made. I let them see Audio Hijack Pro and soundboard and how we do this without a mixer. So the people that are watching have an idea that we do this just on a computer with no mixer. But we'll join cable television here in about 8 minutes, and just magically down here, all of our regulars will start to show up. I hope.
I don't know. I couldn't tell if John was coming, and Nate might not make it, and I don't know where Bill is.
Yeah, you never know. So, but we are the two faithful ones here. And I saw a tweet, and I don't have a guest list. I don't know if we have any guests, but I saw a tweet from Mike Smith that he's coming on the show.
I didn't see that, but I haven't seen anything about a guest tonight. So
no, I have zero notes. So. And if Mike doesn't show up, it's just going to be me and you. So this could be the worst 90-minute show in America, or the greatest. We don't know.
We'll condense it down to 36 minutes.
Yeah, and again, if you're on Meerkat, if you want to watch or hear both sides of this and see what it looks like, it's live.bigbrainsmedia.com. And again, I'll warn you, this is a hardcore weather show.
Have you started that link yet?
Yeah, do a refresh.
I did.
Clear the cache reset.
Yeah, there we go.
Clear the cache reset. There you go.
Yeah, I did it. Get the embed code.
So yeah, this is just really funky here. Let me put this phone over here.
Well, you should have been there when we took your picture off the door of the RV.
Oh boy, I bet you that was a celebration moment for our friends that bought that thing. Hey, John is here, Brian.
I am here.
Good.
I just wasn't sure. Yeah, I just finished another meeting.
Well, I wasn't sure with your message whether you were going to get finished with your meeting and get here, or you might not get here. So.
No, I'd be here. I told him I'm out of here. Got to go.
There you go. I mean, who could stand to miss WeatherBrains? This is the highlight of my week. See, this is my creative outlet. I mean,
that's good.
You crank out these products and services all day, all night. They're very, strict. It's not a lot of wiggle room to have any fun. So everybody needs a creative outlet. I don't care what you do for a living. And this is ours here, our little 90-minute release valve.
Oh, yeah.
So, John, do you know who the guests are tonight, by any chance?
It's Mike Smith.
Yeah, I saw Mike tweeting he was going to be on the show tonight, so let me just try and pull him in here.
Yeah. He's the only one that I know of that's going to be on.
There he is. Nice thing about Mike is the fact that I've got him already circled up here. Aubrey, give me an audio check.
Check 1 2, check 1 2.
Yeah, we got to get you that mic.
I know. I need to order it. I have every time I go to, I forget.
Yeah, it's not that bad. It's just there's no high end to it. It's all it's it's low end, and the audio files note.
They hate me, don't they?
No, they don't hate you. They love you. That's the reason they want your audio up to snuff, because they love listening to you. If they didn't care, it wouldn't be any big deal.
Well, when I'm on vacation next week, I'll see if I can take time out and order one.
That's not what you do on vacation. You don't order mics on vacation.
Right.
But that's when I have time to do it.
No, you need to go have fun and get off the grid and don't worry about it.
Oh, I will be off the grid. I'll tell you that much.
You going somewhere? Like taking a trip?
It's our honeymoon.
Oh, it's your honeymoon?
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, wow.
So someplace warm?
Hopefully Outer Banks.
Wow. So I think
Not far enough south.
I know. I know.
don't go swimming. So a delayed honeymoon. This is great.
Yeah. I could not. There's no way I can imagine doing it right after the wedding. We did so much ourselves. We were exhausted. So there is no way I ever would have imagined attempting to do it right after the wedding.
I think Brian and I should just show up on their cabin door in the Outer Banks and sing, "We've only just begun to live, white lace and promises, a kiss for luck, and we're on our way." Or maybe
I thought you said a kiss for us.
a kiss for luck.
Yeah,
Aubrey doesn't know what that song is. She's not old enough to even remember it.
I probably am. I'm sure I've heard of it.
I am man enough to admit I love the Carpenters. Back in the day, when you're a kid, no guy would admit that they liked the Carpenters. That woman could sing. I mean,
amen.
Boy, she was good. Hey, Meerkatters, I'm going to turn you off here.
Uh-oh. There goes half the audience.
Yeah. No, because number one, I'm afraid I'm sucking down bandwidth, which I know I am. I'm on the same, pipe. And number two, they're only hearing half the conversation. That is very boring and not interesting. So I'm going to turn this off. If you want to join us on the show, just come over to live.bigbrainsmedia.com. See you later, Meerkatters. Thanks.
Yeah. Mike's with us.
Mike.
Hello, James.
Wow, this is awesome.
Yes.
I like it when you get these big celebrities on the show. This is cool. Hey, Mike, do you know John?
Absolutely.
I do.
How are you, Mike?
Great, John. Nice to see you.
You too.
And we've got Aubrey Urbanowitz from Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Hi, Aubrey. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
And we have Brian Peters, the man that looks like Colonel Sanders.
Hey, Mike.
Hi,
How
Brian.
you doing?
Fine.
Good.
Mike Bryan is our retired WCM. We have an active WCM, but I think Rick doesn't he have like tonight. He's got a spotter class.
Yeah.
He's got a spotter class tonight.
Nate Johnson's going to join us. Nate is in Raleigh.
Yes. Great guy.
He's a great American, and Kevin Selly is in Wichita Falls, Texas, and we will have Bill Murray, and I think that'll be our cast for this evening. We're about to hit the television side here in just a second.
Is Bill going to make it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's traveling, as far as I know.
I didn't know where he was, so.
Alexandria, Louisiana.
Right. Oh, yeah, you talked to him today, Mike. Yeah, you should know.
I did, and I've actually been to the Alexandria airport, flown in and out of there.
Is that something you should mark on the totem pole?
Oh, well, no. My bigger accomplishment is I've been to 48 of the 50 states, and I would like to get to all 50.
Oh, man, I've got 40 in my bag. I got 10 more to go.
Gosh, with all the traveling I've done, I don't even know what my count is. It's got to be up there.
All right, let's see here. Yeah, I turned on Meerkat, the little personal streaming app, just a few minutes ago, and we probably have some people that have no idea what they're getting into, so we should apologize in advance. But so Bill Murray's gone. Wow.
He's coming to visit me next week.
He's coming to visit you?
Yeah, they're on their way somewhere, and he was going to stop in.
Ah. Well, that's news to us.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't share that?
No, we talked today, too. He's on his way to D.C. for a few days, just vacationing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people take vacation? Well, I understand, Aubrey, you're not down here where we are, but Brian, I learned years ago you never take vacation in late March because what's going to happen? The severe weather outbreak of the century. No, we try and get out of here in March or April. I quit years ago. No matter what happened, I would try and take that spring break week where your kid's out of school and you go somewhere and you get there and then you have to come right back early because of a tornado outbreak, which might or might not happen, but you have to be here. I mean, it's just it's very frustrating. So I've finally figured it out. I take 1 week in June, 1 week in August, 1 week at Christmas, and that traditionally works out pretty well. So August might be a conflict with a tropical system, but it's been pretty quiet out there. So who's leading the discussion?
I believe it's going to be me.
Good. There you go.
Nice.
I love it.
All right.
And Mike,
everything's taken care of.
and Mike, what happens? So John will have this wonderful, organized, great discussion, and then the rest of us just horn in with these, idiotic questions, and it comes from left field here. So
I have my notes all arranged.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm the guy that tends to ask the nosy personal questions. So
that's okay. You can ask me about my shirt. It's what all well-attired Wichitans are wearing this evening.
Oh yeah.
Stand up so we can see it.
Well, here we'll just tilt the computer.
Oh, there you go.
You're in Wichita?
How sweet
No, I'm not a Jayhawk. Are you kidding? I'm a Shocker fan.
Wichita State.
Yes.
Yeah, that what we'll talk about March Madness, but boy, that last Thursday I came out of the gate. It was shocking how strong I was. I picked Georgia State and I picked UAB, those two 14 seeds. And I was like, perfect. It was just stunning. And then after that, it went right down the tubes.
Yeah.
All right. So we have been joined by cable television. Welcome to you. And let me get this thing started here because we're actually going to start only 2 minutes late.
Wow.
And again, for those that are watching for the first time on the live stream here or watching the recorded stream, still more people listen to this show. This is a core audio podcast. We have ported it to video so we can show it on cable television here and just for the fun of it. But anyway, let's get this thing going. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains! Ladies and gentlemen, WeatherBrains episode number 478 for the 23rd of March, 2015. This is the weekly show where we talk about our favorite subject, weather. Glad you're here. This is kind of spring break week for a lot of people, and I know that Aubrey's about to take a really cool spring break. She's going to take like a really cool break. Aubrey,
it'll be the first time.
You want to share with a group here?
Well, it'll be the first time I've taken a Monday through Friday off of work. So I'm very excited.
Wow.
I don't know if when I was bartending, Monday through Friday didn't exist when you're bartending. It's it's Thursday through Tuesday when you're bartending. So but since I've had this job for 4.5 years, I've never taken a Monday through Friday off, and I'm headed on my honeymoon.
Ooh, so a delayed honeymoon.
7 months late. We got married in August, and this was the plan. We were going to try to go in October, but we ended up buying a house that wasn't planned about 2 weeks before we got married. So that kind of took away from. We were driving around one day and just found a house. It was the easiest process ever, and people are probably hating me, but yeah, we drove around. So that kind of took away or delayed the honeymoon from October and to spring, and we can't do it in May because of sweeps, and then June he's got stuff with school going on, and then July is my family vacation. So it's like, well, this is it or this is never.
Wow. So Brian and I want to come by and sing You've Only Just Begun by the Carpenters, or We've Only Just Begun.
All right, that's fine. We can have lunch, but not dinner.
Yeah. But Brian, let's sing it. We've only just begun to live. White lace and no, boy, this is
that's gonna
bad.
There goes the audience.
They said they were going to come and sing this at my wedding. They never showed up.
That's going to end the marriage before the honeymoon.
Kevin said, and for those that don't, and I turned on Meerkat, so we're getting a lot of non-weather people watching this, and I'm sure we've lost them already. But for those that don't know, Aubrey works at WHSV Television in the lovely Shenandoah Valley, Harrisonburg. Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
What a great place! I mean, oh boy, it's great.
Hey, Virginia was just rated number 5 out of the best places to retire with cost of living, activities and weather and all sorts of great stuff. So Virginia.
It does it. Let's see, Brian, you're at retirement age. Me and you need to move up there. We can play shuffleboard, go to the prune pageant. I mean, we can,
absolutely.
Yeah. We'll play miniature golf.
Miniature golf. The only course I play, they have windmills. Kevin Selly is the chief meteorologist out in Wichita Falls, Texas for KFDX. Is that right?
That's correct.
I nailed it.
You did.
Accelerant. Explain that for those that didn't hear the last show.
Yeah, John called me that last week because I'm a troublemaker. I'm a fire.
See, and Mike's. I'm going to warn our guest here, Mike. You know, when Kevin and I jump into these interviews, that's when it really goes down the tube. So, fair warning. So, Kevin, how is life and how is weather? You got a severe weather threat up there, don't you? Is that today or tonight? What's going on out there?
More so Wednesday, I think. Tiny little one in our eastern counties for Tuesday, but more so on Wednesday. And so we're just going to wait that out. But it's going to be in the mid-80s, I think, for tomorrow and Wednesday. Where's my moss? The NAM went crazy here. The GFS has us 83 tomorrow, and the NAMS has 92. So that was
whoa.
And the truth is probably somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between, exactly right.
NAM is a little nutty.
It's fun too because I've been here a little over 4 months now, and it's fun to start to see some of the little idiosyncrasies of the location. You know, where you see, well, okay, the model's going to do this fairly regularly, and obviously I haven't gone through a whole year yet, but it seems that the moss seems to underdo the wind speed a lot of the time, and we'll see how it goes on temperatures, but this is obviously an example.
Ah, cool. All right. Well, Kevin, welcome, and Kevin, for those that are new, maybe we should just kind of do a show for the newbies here. Kevin and I technically are on the clock. We are working our not day jobs, but our night jobs. Yeah. So we kind of fade in and out as we have to do these television weather segments. But
yeah, and I'm going to be less useful than usual, which I'm not usually of much use because we've got several things going on here tonight. So.
All right, well, cool. Brian Peters is the internationally beloved meteorologist. Brian is known worldwide for being a warning coordination meteorologist for his many years at the National Weather Service and stealing Wi-Fi.
Yes, that I learned from you, James. Learned from the best.
That's right. You know, back in the old, what's funny, you look back on it, it's almost laughable, but there was a time where, you know, we do radio weather, and I have to feed these audio files, and I'm typically on the road somewhere, and there was a time where you didn't really have this cool LTE in the air everywhere, so you had to kind of find a Wi-Fi hotspot. So, Brian, we have been in, hotel parking lots and you know, Starbucks. We just go wherever we can find it.
I remember the first time, James, and you told me to pull into the Days Inn, and I thought, well, this is kind of strange. Why are we going to a Days Inn? And you said, okay, just pull into the space right here by the lobby door. And I thought, well, this is kind of strange. He said, but keep the engine running. That's when I realized he was stealing their Wi-Fi.
Times have changed.
Yes. And I think you have a title. Why are we at the Days Inn?
With the engine still running.
The engine's still running, yeah. So, but Dr. John Scala is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. John is international. He's really internationally known because he was on the Weather Channel.
Oh, yeah.
But no, John's broadcaster, researcher, forensic meteorologist, consulting meteorologist, and the man with some really good hair. I mean, goodness, that should be illegal. But John,
call it the hair of knowledge.
The hair of knowledge.
The hair of knowledge.
Another show title. We got multiple show titles here.
Wow.
But John, bring in our guest before he runs.
Oh, yeah. Well, you were mentioning forensic meteorology. We'll get into this, but our guest this evening, Mike Smith, is in fact a CCM. And let me go back to my cheat sheet here. Mike
Or
is
better
no
yet, just make
stranger.
something up.
Mike is no stranger to WeatherBrains. I think this may be your third visit, Mike.
Third visit, yes.
Yeah, it's astounding you've decided to come back a third time. We haven't scared you away.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're glad you're with us. Mike is the Senior Vice President and Chief Innovation Executive for AccuWeather Enterprise Solutions. That's a new title, isn't it, Mike?
Yes, it is. AccuWeather has purchased several companies, including mine, back in 2006, and we kept the name Weather Data for 5 years, but with the purchase of hazardous notifications and Weather Bank and these other companies, we created a new company called AccuWeather Enterprise Solutions. I'm the Senior Vice President. I report to Casey McGeever, our Chief Commercial Officer. And actually, I'm having a blast. I don't have to worry about HR. I don't have to worry about accounting. I don't have to worry about taxes. I actually get to do meteorology now.
You don't have to worry about taxes? I want that job.
Well, I have to worry about my home taxes. I don't have to worry about the corporate taxes anymore.
Well, how did that position come about, Mike, and what are your responsibilities?
Well, my responsibilities are to help maintain quality control and improve the quality of the products that we provide to our clients. We're the business-to-business part of AccuWeather. Also to create new products and to introduce new science into what we do.
Excellent. How many people are working with you?
AccuWeather itself is somewhere in the 450, 480 range. We have about 40 in our Wichita office, which is where I work.
Right, okay. Have you been out to AccuWeather recently?
Not recently. Last time I was there was in 2014. They send me all around the country. I was in Dallas just last week presenting a seminar, and so I hardly ever get to our home office because they're so busy sending me everywhere else.
Well, you're missing out on our wonderful spring weather up here.
Yeah, I've heard how wonderful it is, whereas it was in the mid-70s in Wichita today and over the weekend, and I think I'll take that.
Yeah, obviously, Mike, we're struggling to get to 40 degrees, which is just ridiculous, and we may see some snow flurries.
And it looks like it's going to be cold. It looks like it's going to be cold all week there.
Yeah, we'll get a little tease. Aubrey knows about this. This little tease will come in on Thursday, right? And then then we go right down the tubes again. Well, Mike, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about what you did before you came to AccuWeather, because you've written a couple of books, and you've talked a lot about the Joplin tornado and what we've learned from that. So maybe we could start off our discussion by some of that. Okay.
I started Weather Data in 1981, and its primary focus was business-to-business weather forecasting, storm warnings, and forensic meteorology. And over the years, we focused more on the storm warnings. And one of my convictions is that meteorology keeps its light under a bushel basket, to use a worn-out metaphor. We are one of the biggest bargains in terms of the taxpayer and National Weather Service, the very biggest bargains that the taxpayer receives from government. We're one of the United States' most important industries, yet nobody hears about us. So I wrote the book Warnings, the true story of how science tamed the weather. And it's a story. It's written like a novel. It is not a heavy science book. And if you're not already proud of being a meteorologist, you'll be very proud of being a meteorologist after you read it. And it talks about how the tornado warning system has brought the death toll down by more than 95%. It talks about how we conquered the wind shear microburst, which at one time was the leading cause of commercial airline accidents in the United States. And it talks about the thousands and thousands of lives we save in hurricanes. Absent the tornado warning system, we'd have about 1,100 deaths in the United States due to tornadoes in an average year. And in a year like 2011, it would be more than 2,000. And people perceive, in fact, I was just with a group of meteorologists a few days ago, and they were saying, well, tornadoes aren't a problem. We only, in an average year, lose about 100 people. Well, that's true, but that's only because of the warning system. So I wrote warnings to try to get our field some of the recognition I think it deserves. Yeah. And then when the Joplin tornado occurred and 161 people died, that's the only triple-digit tornado fatality rate in the tornado warning era. I found out that many, many, many things went wrong in Joplin, and unfortunately, many people in meteorology still have not come to terms with what went wrong, and some of what we've done to modify the warning system since then is just plain wrong. It'll make it worse.
Now, speaking of warnings and watches, Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have any idea how many watches, either a severe thunderstorm or tornado, have been issued by the Storm Prediction Center from the beginning of the year to where we are right now?
Oh, I think it's a low number, maybe 30. I know there haven't been any in March so far.
That's correct. There's been none in March, and I cheated. I went to Greg Carbon's WCM page. This is astounding to me. There have been only 4 tornado watches since the beginning of the year.
Wow.
We're into the 3rd week of March, and typically there's more than 50, right? So, well, go ahead.
I've seen some statistics, though, that indicate that late tornado seasons are bad tornado seasons, so we'll see if that holds here.
Good point. And to this discussion, do you think we have painted ourselves a little bit into a corner with the lack of severe weather, and that may foster complacency so that when we do get the storms beginning to develop, that could be a real problem in getting the public to react?
I know a lot of people think so. Personally, I don't. I think that in Tornado Alley, whether it be the Plains Tornado Alley or the Tornado Alley of the South, most people know year to year what it is they're supposed to do when a tornado warning is issued. So I think the bigger issue is the lack of major hurricanes. The U.S. has gone the longest interval in its history, almost 10 years without a major hurricane, and that's where I'm really worried about the complacency. But tornadoes, not so much.
Interesting. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you mentioned, hurricanes. The National Hurricane Center has just issued some more products. The surge warnings and watches that are now going to be available. That's a huge jump, I think, in our ability to warn the public.
It's a huge jump in our ability, but I worry that we're making it too complicated. Storm surge is part of a hurricane. Everyone in this group, everyone in meteorology knows that. Issuing a separate storm surge watch, storm surge warning, in addition to the hurricane warning, I think we're getting way too many different watches and warnings. Someone told me recently that Weather Service has about 140 different types of warnings. Does it really make any difference that it's a lake effect heavy snow versus heavy snow? All we're doing is complicating things and making it difficult for the public to get the essence of the importance of the message.
Good point. That lends itself exactly to where I wanted to go with this discussion. The new warning paradigm that the National Weather Service is working on, called facets.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this, Mike? It's called.
I am.
The Forecasting a Continuum of Environmental Threats. What do you think about facets?
Well, let's begin with the first change, which was impact-based warnings, which I believe have been an unmitigated disaster. I think they are a huge step back. And facets, I knew you might be asking me about that, so I got a little information off their webpage. Now, let me tell you what, quote, facets is intended to do, and I'm quoting: be a unifying vision, framework, and concept for an effective future warning system, guide warning R&D work, address issues identified in weather-ready nation, anticipate and adapt the trajectories of science, technology, and society, and finally, develop and implement the underlying paradigm change. Where do you hear anything about saving more lives? Where do you hear anything about saving people's property? Plus, given Simmons and other research, we know that 15 minutes is the optimal length of time for a tornado warning. What's this about giving people 2 hours from now an 18% chance of a tornado warning? What the heck does that mean? We will never be able to educate people on that. So I think what we need to be doing is making the original warning paradigm, a tornado's coming, take shelter, more accurate, fewer false alarms, more specificity, but all of this warn-on forecast, impact warnings, quote, whole neighborhoods are going to be destroyed. Quote, you will die if not underground, unquote. We've had 3 of those DEFCON 5 impact warnings issued for the city of Wichita since that program began in 2012, and not one has verified.
Wait. Let me. Hey, Mike. So you're saying with these new impact warnings, there is a warning that's been issued that says you will only survive if you are underground?
Absolutely. Go look at the warnings that were issued for Sedgwick County on May 19th, 2013, the day before Moore. It says exactly that. And
so
I think...
Is this a template that the Weather Service uses, or is this just something they typed in for that one event?
I don't know. But I can tell you that I have multiple friends who have children in the 7 to 10-year-old range, and as they sat in the basement, they were asking my friend DJ, are we going to die, Daddy? Because they were listening to NOAA weather radio with these ridiculous, stupid, you are going to die warnings, whole neighborhoods are going to be destroyed. I can tell you that the Weather Service's credibility here in the Wichita area took a major hit with this, and nothing happened. The tornado lifted before it got to where the warning was. And so we don't even have the science to do this, let alone whether it's a good a social science product. And the last thing I want to say about that, Patrick Marsh, who I'm sure all of you know, did a verification of every single tornado emergency, which is only supposed to be issued when it's virtually a sure thing, and only 15% of them have verified. What does that tell you about our ability to pre-forecast whether it's going to be an F1 tornado and say light damage, or an F5 tornado and say you're all going to die, whole neighborhoods are going to be destroyed?
Well, it seems to me, Mike, one of the fundamental reasons for the impact-based warning is to provide verbiage that the end user will respond to. Isn't one of the issues here with respect to warnings is we're not generating the kind of response in a timely manner that we'd like to see?
How in the world, when we've cut the death toll by 97%, can we come to the conclusion we're not getting the response we want?
I think some of that comes out of surveys and questionnaires that are issued to, for example, after April 2011 in Alabama. What did you do? How did you receive your warning? Why did you need 2 pieces of information to corroborate the fact that there was a tornado bearing down on you?
That may be true, but how does it help us to get people to react when we tell them people are going to die, whole neighborhoods are going to be destroyed, and nothing happens? Explain to me how that improves our credibility.
That's the boy crying wolf, unfortunately.
And we're doing that a lot. As I said a few minutes ago, what we should be concentrating on is getting the false alarm rate down. I'm certainly in favor of using social science to craft the message more effectively, but I'm completely against this scaring people into the basement paradigm that seems to have taken over in the wake of Joplin. The fact of the matter is the service assessment that was done in Joplin was perhaps the poorest I've ever seen. It completely missed what went wrong in Joplin, thus my book. I had absolutely no intention of writing a book. After I wrote Warnings, I never intended to even write one book. But after I wrote Warnings, I'm done, I'm not going to do this again. And I got invited to Joplin by the Chamber of Commerce and others. And I did a seminar for them on smart rebuilding and other things and donated my time and all of that. I was happy to do it. Person after person after person after person told me, we didn't know it was coming. We had no idea a tornado was coming for Joplin. And I thought, something's wrong here because a tornado warning was issued. I knew that. But when I started looking into it, I found out just about everything went wrong that day. And that's why I wrote the second book. And unfortunately, the critical issues of what went wrong in Joplin are not covered in the service assessment. And so what happened is the Weather Service felt it was under pressure to do something, and it did something, and unfortunately, it was impact-based warnings.
You know what I remember vividly after Joplin? Within 24 hours, all the major news media were gathering, obviously, in Joplin, and they were doing their live evening feeds. Do you remember that? And
right. Yes.
I have this distinct memory of watching Brian Williams doing a live interview, and right over his shoulder is a thunderstorm. You can see the lightning.
Right.
It was right beyond the hospital that had been hit. There was a severe thunderstorm warning out, and here is a major news media anchorman giving a live report when he's at risk of being struck by lightning.
Well, actually, and tragically, a policeman in Kansas City was killed by lightning in the storm you're talking about because he had no place to take shelter because he was out patrolling the devastated area.
That's right. I do remember hearing that.
Hey, I've got this warning pulled up here, Mike. This is from April 14th, 2012. I really have not looked at this. This is remarkable. This is the tornado warning for Wichita, and it says there is a tornado emergency for the Wichita metro area. A confirmed large, violent, and extremely dangerous tornado is located near Hayesville, moving northeast at 50. And then down below it says source radar confirmed tornado, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But here's the impact statement. It says this is a life-threatening situation. You could be killed if not underground or in a tornado shelter. Complete destruction of entire neighborhoods is likely.
Right.
Many well-built homes and businesses will be completely swept from their foundations. Debris will block most roadways. Mass devastation is highly likely, making the area unrecognizable to survivors. This is doomsday.
And nothing happened. Nothing happened. And then there's the chutzpah of the people at the National Weather Service in Norman the next day criticizing the TV meteorologists in Oklahoma City for saying you need to get underground or you'll die, when their own organization was saying exactly the same thing and worse 24 hours before in Wichita. And so it just seems to me that this whole impact-based warning thing has backfired terribly. Put yourself in the position of a father with a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old in the basement listening to the deadly tornado. Look at that line, James. It says deadly tornado. And all these people are going to die. How do you keep your kids calm in something like that? Plus, you want to know how many words were in the Joplin tornado warning? 324. All 4 stanzas of the Star-Spangled Banner are 312 words. But if you're trying to listen on NOAA Weather Radio and there are multiple warnings, it takes 5 to 7 minutes to cycle through those things. And so the warnings got wordier. The credibility of the warning system is being destroyed or at least hurt. And we don't have the science to do this as exemplified by the Wichita warning. Nothing happened.
Well, it sounds like the statement issued from the Weather Service in New Orleans before Hurricane Katrina, which worked in that case, but I've never really paid attention to this, Mike. That's just stunning.
But that's the problem. I have people who have been extremely critical of my comments And then when you ask them to actually look at this stuff, they go, oh, I see what you're talking about. I contend that the Weather Service went off half-cocked after Joplin, had to do something, and they did the wrong things.
I know, Brian Peters, aren't the impact-based warnings starting in our CWA here, like this spring?
This spring.
Mike,
in 2 weeks. But Brian is our one government guy here. So I wish Rick Smith was here. But the question I throw to you, Brian, is what I threw out to Mike. Is this a template? Do you know? Can they come in and alter? So this stuff was in the can.
Yes, it's canned. Yes, 90% of it. And if you will recall, James, we got the director of the Central Region to hang up on us that one night when I mentioned something about impact-based warnings as not being new. That we've been doing that since the 80s, really, and doing it much better than what, as Mike Smith is showing, than we're doing it now.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to. So again, I'm working the warning desk, and what do you got? Like DEFCON 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? I mean, how does this work, Brian? Have you seen how this thing works at all? And Brian, you're muted.
Yeah.
yeah, James, I'm sorry. My speakers, my headphone lost connectivity there for a second, so I missed your comment. I'm sorry.
That's why Brian gets these fancy Bluetooth headphones.
That's the first time that's ever happened.
the cheap, free little earplugs like we all have. No, so you're working the warning desk, and how many options do you have? Do you know if you're going to issue a tornado warning?
That I have to defer to Rick Smith on that, because it has been let's see, how long have I been retired? It has been coming up on over 11 years since I was at the warning desk at a National Weather Service office. So I would not want to answer that question based on what they're doing now, or even over the last 4 or 5 years.
Mike, how did the Weather Service in Wichita respond to the criticism?
More or less ignored it. That's one of my big problems about this. It seems there's no such thing as a genuine experiment in the National Weather Service. They throw something out there, they call it experimental, and then it's 100% of the time a success. And there was a lot of criticism around some of these warnings after the 2012 tornado season, yet what did they do? Expanded it. And so rather than make the warning short, like the Greensburg warning, that was a very short warning, highly effective, saved 232 lives. We decide we're going to issue these war and peace length warnings that are serving no one well.
And let me be sure I get this right. You said when it comes to tornado emergency messages, what's the false alarm ratio with those?
85%.
Wow.
And this is nationally.
Nationally.
Because it was my opinion, and again, Brian, you jump in. These guys aren't going to issue a tornado emergency unless they are looking at this thing, right?
Well, that's what I thought, but that's not what the figures are saying.
But James, look at that was a tornado emergency that you just read, and nothing happened. It wasn't like an F1 tornado occurred. Nothing happened.
Yes, and again, as I read this message, it says the source, it's a radar-confirmed tornado. But up in the text, it says a confirmed large, violent, and extremely dangerous tornado is located near Hayesville. When I read that, it's like somebody's looking at it, but then down below it says it's confirmed by radar. So,
well, was there
a visual on this thing?
Yeah, I was out chasing, and there was a tornado near Clearwater. It was never near Hayesville. It was west of Hayesville. They had the location wrong. And it was moving northeast, but it was rapidly becoming occluded, and it lifted before it even got to the city limits.
Wow.
Goodness.
This reminds me of July 3rd, 1999. That was the first tornado emergency issued by the National Weather Service.
Right. May 3rd, 1999.
Exactly. And I was working that storm at the Weather Channel. In fact, That was an amazing experience. But anyway, I remember providing updates every 15 minutes on what was happening. And when that statement came across, I remember looking at it and reading it twice, thinking I misread something. I'd never heard of a tornado emergency before. But there it was, and that tornado tracked right towards Oklahoma City, made a left-hand turn and lifted, and they were never hit.
Well, the southern suburbs of Oklahoma City were hit.
Correct.
But I remember the minute I saw that, I said, this is going to get adopted elsewhere, and this is going to be a really bad idea. Sort of like, do you remember when Hurricane Charlie came into Florida and did so much damage inland because of the high winds? So the decision was made, by golly, we're going to issue a tornado warning for hurricanes. So then when Katrina comes barreling into southwest Mississippi, they issued tornado warnings telling you to get underground as a 30-foot storm surge is moving in. I mean, this stuff seems to happen, and rather than common sense snuffing it out, it just somehow explodes. I think one of the problems that the Weather Service has is maybe they're bored with the tornado watch and warning system. So rather than taking something and improving it, they want to just start over and, gee, that'll be interesting. Let's see what happens. But these are people's lives you're dealing with.
Hey, and let me jump in too. Rick Smith is driving back from a spotter class, and he's listening, and he tweeted safely. He tweeted safely that the language about dying if you are not below ground has been eliminated. That is not used anymore in impact-based warnings. So at least somebody is paying attention.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yes, but think about it. Think about all of the criticism that Mike Morgan and Gary England and the others got from the Weather Service in Norman and NSSL meteorologists about making that comment the very next day after the Weather Service had made the same comment.
No, I agree. Now, you know, it's a problem we have here, and that people have heard this. That people have heard that if you're not underground, you can never ever survive a tornado, and accordingly, you get people panicking trying to find some bunker that's underground, and they leave and they start driving, and it's a horrifying situation. So we try and put that down. Hey, just get into a small room, first floor, near the center, away from windows, and in 99% of the cases you're going to be fine. But apparently somebody came in there and checked off on that. So, but I want to change. I want to veer directions here. You're an old TV guy, Mike.
In ancient times, yes.
So, first off, for those that don't know about your career, tell us about your television career back in the good old days.
Well, I started in Oklahoma City in 1971, came to Wichita in 1975, spent a couple of years in St. Louis from 79 to 81, then came back to Wichita where I started weather data but continued on the air from 81 to 93, and I took myself off television in 93 because I had too much to do running weather data.
So here's the next question. So all these young people want to be television weathercasters, meteorologists, on-air, talent, if you will. Where's this business going, in your opinion? What's the future for this generation that's going to graduate here in a few years, wanting to do what we've been doing for so long?
I have two young women who are absolutely terrific who graduate in 6 weeks that I'm mentoring, and both of them want to become TV meteorologists. And I believe that they will probably be successful because they really are exceptional. That said, I'm not sure your average graduate with the brand new degree in meteorology realizes just how tough this is going to be. While AccuWeather is hiring people and is expanding, that's generally not true throughout the television industry. There are a lot of television outlets that are shrinking their television weather staffs, maybe not so much in the plains, but elsewhere. and you're going to end up starting in a very small market, perhaps doing weekends or mornings, and you're not going to make very much money in your first couple of jobs, more than likely. So if you've got a burning passion to do it, by all means, scratch that itch. But unless you really want to do that, I'd suggest you do something else in meteorology.
Like what?
Private sector meteorology. We're growing like crazy.
I agree.
We really are. And we have good jobs. We put a tremendous amount of effort into getting it right. And it's really interesting because there are no fair and sunny days, because here in our Wichita office of AccuWeather, for example, we're covering all of North America, Mexico, the Caribbean. We're starting to do international clients, and there's always weather somewhere. So it's always interesting. It's always challenging. We're always learning something. And so I would strongly recommend that people who want to do forecasting and be challenged take a serious look at private sector meteorology.
Well, Mike, here's the next question. What are you guys up to at AccuWeather? So you're on, what is it, Verizon?
Verizon, yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
Explain this situation for those that don't know.
Well, AccuWeather replaced the Weather Channel on Verizon Fios, which for people in the central United States, that's the rough equivalent to AT&T Uverse. It's kind of like a cable service. Our motto is all weather all the time. We are doing weather 24/7 by 365. We're not showing off-road truckers or whatever that stuff is. And we are going to cover storms when there are big storms going on. The service, by necessity, is starting off small, but we certainly have plans to expand it. We've also purchased, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, a couple of companies in January, and we're integrating those into our operations. And then our partner, Microsoft, has been running national commercials about us. We get now 10 billion, with a B, billion requests for meteorological data every 24 hours from all 7 continents, and we are just growing like wildfire. We do weather in 100 different languages, and we have actually won an award for the quality of our translations.
Exciting, Mike, exciting.
Wow.
James stole some of my questions.
Okay.
I've got about 50 more, but you go ahead, John.
No, you were great. You were great. Mike, let's steer you a little bit back towards what happened in New York City and New England with that major snowstorm. I'd like you to talk a little about how AccuWeather's model performed, and then also, if you wouldn't mind, commenting on how we should deal with uncertainty in our forecast.
Okay, well, that's actually, as I see it, 3 questions, so let's take them one at a time. First of all, the new model did very, very well. It more or less cut off the heavy snow over New York City with very little to the west. In terms of dealing with uncertainty, let me come back to that. The point I want to make, though, is we meteorologists rolled over on that. New York City had heavy snow. The Central Park had 8 inches. JFK had 10. LaGuardia had 11. The idea that this was some sort of gigantic bust is silly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of defending ourselves, we have the AMS more or less issuing an apology, whereas 98% of the forecast was very good. We missed Manhattan and Philadelphia, but the areas where we forecast severe blizzard conditions did in fact occur. It likely saved lives, and we should be proud of that and telling our story rather than going, oh, woe is us, and rolling over with the national news's criticism. And then finally, when it comes to expressing uncertainty, I think that's something that meteorologists thinks is a real good idea, and no one else does. We will, if you want us to, if you're one of our clients and you want probabilistic forecasts, we'll give them to you. if you're one of our clients and you want more information, we'll do that. But it's been my experience, people want deterministic forecasts. Yes or no, is a tornado going to cross our railroad track? Mm-hmm. Do we prepare for snow tomorrow if you're a highway department? And I think meteorology as a group is way oversold on probabilities. Yes, I know. We give people a survey and say, would you like more information? Well, who wants less information? So they check the box yes without really giving it a lot of thought. And we meteorologists don't do enough analysis in this. And I'm just not as sold on probabilities, especially a warn on forecast. There's an 18% chance of a tornado in 30 minutes. We know that's a very high number. The public thinks it's a very low number, and people are going to be motivated to not seek shelter by that, and it's going to end up costing people's lives.
Don't you think, Mike, we should be providing some measure of confidence in a forecast, though? Think of a municipality that has to pre-position men and resources to address potential 15-inch snow. Okay, it was 8 inches, not 15, but they still have to pre-position. There's still a cost associated with that. I think
there wasn't an incremental cost. That's what I'm arguing. If you forecast 15 and get 8, do you have to use every one of your trucks? Yes. You may not need to refill it, but you're going to need to use every one of the trucks. Are you going to call off school? Yes. Once the threshold for calling off school has been met, it doesn't matter how much more falls. Mm-hmm. Are you going to tell your people to work from home? Yes, and that's still the right decision. You might have seen the Wall Street Journal's article that says the New York City storm was much easier to deal with because it was so confidently forecast, even though it was over forecast, than your typical 3 to 5 inch maybe snowstorm. And so I think we have oversold ourselves on probabilities. I think the number of occasions where they're useful is low. And then I want to make one more point on this. Are all of you familiar with the plume models and all of that? Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever calibrated those? I've tried to find out really hard, and I can't find any evidence those have been calibrated. Yeah. That when it says 80%, that in fact it's right 80% of the time. We're throwing out all these numbers now that are completely uncalibrated, and there's hardly anything less scientific than that.
If anybody uses those for any great length of time, you realize there are true biases in those.
Yes, but the public doesn't. We shouldn't be putting out, assume for a moment, just assume that we're telling someone there's an 80% chance when in real life the calibrated number is 40%. How exactly are we helping them?
Yeah, good point.
We aren't calibrating the numbers we have now. Why in the world do we want to put out more non-calibrated numbers?
I follow you.
Go ahead.
No, it is an issue, and I think what you're talking about here, what you're suggesting, what you're advocating, is that we have gone from a simplistic arrangement, a simplistic design, to something that's more complicated, and you're advocating we should do a 180 and go back in the other direction.
Yeah, I think we ought to issue 70-word tornado warnings, not 324-word tornado warnings. I think we ought to tell people I think we ought to cut down the number of headline, lake effect snow warnings from 140 down to the short fuse life-threatening only, like tornado, tsunami, maybe blizzard and ice storm. But all the winter weather advisory, the winter storm watch, we need to get rid of all of those. We need to perhaps for certain types of users give some probability ranges, but the general public is just going to tune them out, and it's just going to confuse people.
I had an experience. Go ahead, James.
I was going to say.
Aubrey, go ahead.
That was what my question was going to be. With all of these advisories, there's winter storm warnings and an ice storm warning and a winter weather advisory and a freezing rain advisory. Who knows the difference? Who can
You'll find most meteorologists don't.
Right. So how is the public supposed to discern the difference between a freezing rain advisory and a winter weather advisory with the potential of a little snow and a little freezing rain? And what impact are we making by telling these alerts? Am I wasting my breath by saying there's a winter weather advisory for the area for this time and this time? What is this? I want to know what the solution is, because I've been thinking about this for a very long time now, that we're just so overdone on these advisories and alerts. What is the solution?
I believe the solution is telling people what is the most likely scenario to occur and allow them to make their own decision. We don't know the condition of their tires. We don't know whether they have four-wheel drive. We don't know whether it's a 40-year-old woman who statistically is very safe on the road or a 88-year-old with very poor vision. For us to try to tell people that it's unsafe to drive outside seems kind of silly. A snowplow is a non-meteorological event. The way I see it is we should tell people what sort of weather we're expecting, and we should do it in a timely fashion, in the clearest possible language, and then let them make their own decisions.
I agree with Mike, because it goes back to the old saying, tell them what you know and don't tell them what you don't know. I'm not qualified to tell people about driving conditions. I'm not a highway engineer. And we got into trouble here, last January, Brian, for this very reason. And I agree, Mike. There are times where I just think we need to step back, and if there's some things we don't understand and can't do, we don't need to be talking about that,
Yeah, I think we took a warning system that was pretty well understood and extremely effective 5 years ago, and we're mucking it up big time.
Do you have a dialogue, Mike, with the Weather Service? You're critical of the process, and I'm just wondering if there's an open communication between you and folks maybe at the National Weather Center there in Norman.
They don't like me, and that's fine.
What?
Can you imagine? And in fact, 3 separate meteorologists, not 1, not 2, 3, from the National Weather Service in Norman have been highly critical of the fact that AccuWeather wants to run its own models. And what I have found is that there's a lot of, I hate to use this, because there are a lot of very smart, well-intended people there, but the amount of groupthink is off the charts. And they're going to go ahead with worn-on forecast, even though I was in a room where both social scientists told them it was a bad idea, where the 2 TV meteorologists in the room told them it was a bad idea. 100% of the people in the room that did not work at the National Weather Center said it was a bad idea, but they're going to do it anyway. And so they have a way of looking at things, which is fine. As I told one of them last week, I said, you have a certain way of looking at severe storm warnings and forecasts, and that's great. But that doesn't make it the only way of looking at them, and it doesn't necessarily make it the right way of looking at them. And I bet I have collectively, in the amount of time since I started weather data in 1981, issued 50 personal invitations to come up and visit weather data or AccuWeather. I want them to know what the private sector has done. Want to know the number of accepted invitations? 0.
Whoop.
They are very insular. There's groupthink galore, and they have a really difficult time getting outside their way of thinking. And when I want to emphasize, there are some great, smart people working there. But I think the dynamic of all these people in this one confined space, they don't seek outside opinions readily.
I wish Rick Smith was here. You know, he's the
that's what I've been thinking too.
One guy that could address this because he works in that building. And that's the next issue with the National Weather Service. How does AccuWeather, how is their relationship, corporately speaking?
Oh, I think it's very good. Barry Myers, our CEO, works very, very well with the NWS on a national level. I think it's excellent. I think you'll find that our relation with the local Wichita NWS is absolutely superb. The Wichita NWS does a very good job. The problem is that so much of what is going to happen in the future is being driven in Norman, and I just don't see much openness there for opinions if they don't originate in that building.
Okay, fair enough. So let me kind of change directions again. You are an entrepreneur. You had weather data for many years.
Yes.
And you sold it for a gazillion dollars. I mean, Mike has money coming out his ears. What now? You lost it?
If I had the money, I'd have better earphones.
So the question again, a lot of people are
James, your bandwidth is being
interested in yeah.
We're losing James.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry, James.
John, pick it up.
Okay, we're losing him.
I was going to ask.
I'll just take over then, because he was going in the same direction I was going, Mike. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about some of the innovation, Mike, that you've been doing and the entrepreneurial work that you're doing, because I think that's exciting in the private sector.
Well, one of the things we've done with this new model, and we have tested it extensively. We had a extremely accurate 6-hour forecast of the Columbia, Mississippi tornado 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd. As you know, that tornado killed 5 people tragically. And when I say the forecast was accurate, I mean it was accurate down to the county level. We have developed a set of rules. We know some situations the model will work very well. In others, it doesn't work well. Our meteorologists must sign off on the forecast. We never just send the model out. But we found organizations like hospitals, like the one in Norman where lives were saved, or the one in Joplin where when I interviewed them for the book, they told me they only had 6 minutes advance warning the tornado was coming. Organizations like manufacturers and hospitals need extra time in order to react to a tornado. So we believe for that type of clientele, not the public at large, we have no plans to make this model available to the public at large, but for people who need additional time, this may be a lifesaver.
I agree. Well, Mike, tell me about the kind of potential employee that you're looking for. What is the skill set that individual is going to bring to your table?
Great question. If you are a meteorology student, and I can't urge you enough to learn written and spoken communication. It has no bearing on whether you're ever going to be on TV or radio. We're looking at people who can sit down and conduct themselves professionally in a conference call with literally the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. When there's a hurricane, we are doing conference calls almost nonstop, and it's not always our management meteorologists. It's our line meteorologists doing that because we have so many clients. And so we need people who can write well, who can communicate well, who can make forecasts independent of the models. While I've been bragging about our new model, the meteorologist has to sign off on it. We want meteorologists who understand pattern recognition and good old seat-of-the-pants forecasting because it's absolutely essential. Unfortunately, many of the meteorology schools want to send us little mathematicians. And while there's a role for that in science, it's not what the typical private sector weather company is doing these days.
Every person that's on this show, Mike, from our guests to those of us that are on here regularly, have one quality in common. We can communicate, and we can communicate effectively. I cannot emphasize what you just said enough. When I meet students and they're walking around with this in their hand, I realize this is a fabulous tool, and it provides them access to material and information that we could only dream about 10, 15 years ago. This is also a detriment in my mind.
Yes, yes. Well, one other thing that the professors tell them the opposite of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to tell you do it anyway. You ready?
I'm ready.
Put McDonald's on your resume. Put working at Lowe's on your resume. I want to know that you have customer service experience. I want to know you're proficient with dealing with customers and doing it. I made when I say made, I mean made. All three of my children work at McDonald's. At first, they didn't want to, but once they'd done it, they thought it was a tremendous experience because they were learning how to work in a work environment as a team. They were learning how to communicate to people with different backgrounds than what they had. I want to see McDonald's. I want to see part-time garden associate at Lowe's. I want to see that sort of experience on your resume if you have it.
That's an interesting point because I think most of us might think, well, that has nothing to do with being a meteorologist or trying to attain
AccuWeather.
No, I would like to jump in here because that was actually my background is much different from other meteorologists and from most of them. I was a bartender for 12 years. I started as a hostess. I worked for Chili's, the corporate chain, and I trained. And I was hired mainly because not of my meteorology experience, but because of my life experience. And when I worked for Chili's, and I will say this, and I've said this to my boss, my previous bosses, my previous leaders, and I've thanked them for everything that they taught me because I learned how to speak in front of people, which helped me speak in front of a camera. I learned leadership. I learned confidence. I learned more skills being a trainer and being a bartender for Chili's than I could ever have learned going to any school for meteorology.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Hey, let me see if my bandwidth is back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask Mike this one. So, Mike, I pulled up a 45-day AccuWeather forecast.
Oh, my favorite topic. Go ahead.
So it's got, in my market here, I can pull up a weather forecast for Monday, May 4th, and this show's being produced on March 23rd. Got a couple of thunderstorms, high of 82. Are you yanking our chain here? What's the deal?
Let me tell you how that forecast is made. We pay a small actually it's a big fortune to get the entire output of the European model. We use that, and the European model goes out to 45 days. So we use that along with some other secret sauce to try to improve on what that model is outputting. And so the goal here is to answer the question, which we get constantly, I have X activity 3 weeks from now, what's the weather going to be? And if you're going to criticize us for putting out a forecast, then you need to criticize the Europeans for running the model that far. I mean, we all... Am I a big fan of the 45-day forecast? Not especially, but it does have a role in answering that type of question. And I had a TV meteorologist in the state of New York. I won't say his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but he took me to task about this very topic, and so he picked Halloween night, and like 40 days in advance. And so we did a public bet. And he would buy a copy of my book Warnings if I lost, and in order if I won the bet, in order for me to win the bet, there had to be both precipitation that day, and temperatures had to be at least 10 degrees above normal because it was forecasting warm temperatures with rain on Halloween. it verified.
Hey, Mike, let me see if I can counter your European article and see how you would push back on. You said that you blame the European for going out that far, but they're not doing it in public like you are.
Well, in that case, you would say the GFS isn't being given to the public.
But your argument was you need to blame the Europeans for going out that far, and they're kind of doing research, whereas you're creating a general product for a product for the general population.
That's true.
I would argue that the GFS isn't for a general public either.
That's true. Your point there is well taken. As I said, I would not call that my favorite product of AccuWeather's many excellent products.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And, well, let me ask you, Kevin, how many times have you picked up the phone at the station and someone said, there's an outdoor wedding in 4 weeks, what's the weather going to be?
I wish I had $1 for every time.
Okay. So this is a
one of my favorite questions that comes, after Valentine's Day. I'm getting married in June, and I'm going to take a cruise to the Caribbean. Will there be any hurricanes? And the simple, honest answer is that we just can't tell that far out. But I'm paid here to be a pot stirrer, and that's part of it.
That's fine. That's fine. But go ahead.
I have another one too.
Sure.
I apologize. I have to go because I'm in between shows here. But if you guys have addressed this already, stop me. Oftentimes, and I understand this is not your decision and you came into AccuWeather, but oftentimes when the discussion comes up of products that the Weather Service, the National Weather Service can generate, there is some quiet nod to AccuWeather for being the reason that they are not allowed to have their own app, for example, or they're not allowed to compete in the commercial space. Could you address that, or is that not your area?
No, that's my area. Why should they?
Why shouldn't they? I mean, the argument that I'm hearing now. Wait a minute. The argument that I'm hearing now is that they can't have an app, and they've launched this really cool, website that works on mobile phones. But the argument that they can't have an app is that they shouldn't be competing in the commercial space, and by that logic, they shouldn't have developed a website.
Okay, let's take it one at a time. Why? First of all, we keep hearing, and in a single week in February, there were 7 different articles on this subject that the Weather Service doesn't have enough resources. If the Weather Service doesn't have enough resources, why doesn't it devote its resources to its core mission rather than being in the software development business? There are plenty of free weather apps from AccuWeather, from the Weather Channel, from WeatherBug, everybody. Why does the Weather Service need to reinvent the wheel with these supposedly very scarce resources? That's reason number one.
Well, wait a minute. Does that address?
I thought you asked me a question.
Well, but I did, and you're going to give me several points. I'd like to take them as they come. That one is, you're saying they don't have the resources. But
no, they tell us they don't have the resources.
But my question was, and I don't know if this is always the case, but what I feel like we hear all the time is that they're not allowed to go into these areas because of competition with commercial entities.
Who's not allowing them?
AccuWeather is the one that we've always heard of.
We are Congress and we control the Weather Service's budget and policy. That's the first I've heard of it.
Well, but and the Weather Service people are always very nice and generous about not, pointing a direct finger. It's sort of this nod, this wink and a nod thing, that there is some influence exerted by AccuWeather toward the government.
Hey, John.
Congress.
Hey, John. Did the Weather Service did the Weather Channel ever try to influence the National Weather Service?
No, I'm thinking back to the time where the weather on the 8s was at one time the Weather Service forecast, and then they took that over, so that rather than
no, that's not my question. Did the Weather Service, considering that the Weather Channel executives go to the same meetings that I go to and Barry Myers, where we give our opinion to the Weather Service on what it should or shouldn't be doing.
So, but is that saying
attend those meetings?
Is that saying then that AccuWeather does go to Congress and try and influence against the Weather Service not competing in a commercial space?
Oh, you got to be kidding!
Well,
Against the Weather Service?
That's what
Weather Service?
But that's what I heard that you were implying by that, and you've pushed it off on the Weather Channel. But the question is does AccuWeather exert any kind of influence on any congressional leaders or any government to keep the National Weather Service out of the commercial space? And I again would go back to this logic that we feel like we're hearing that would not that they should have never developed a website.
When did I say to use the word website? I don't think I've used that word all evening.
I'm using it to make the point that if they're not supposed to have a mobile app because of competition with commercial entities, then that same logic should have applied however many years ago when, at the dawn of the web, when they came up with a website.
We weren't against them coming up with a website.
Are you against them coming up with a mobile app?
I really wish if you asked me a question, you'd let me answer it.
Well, but you're dodging them, I feel like.
Because you keep interrupting.
No, because I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
I started to answer the question about the website and the app, and you've interrupted me 3 or 4 times.
Then please finish.
All right, thank you. We were not against them creating a website, because you create one website and it works on virtually any computer with a browser. However, if you are going into the app business, you have to be able to have a version for Windows, you have to have a version for Apple, you have to have a version for Chrome, you have to have a version for Android, etc., 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 etc. You're either in the software business or you're not, and the Weather Service would be having to constantly revise the app, constantly update it. It would be no small task to keep it up to date.
Are they not able to do that?
I could have sworn you said I was going to get the answer to the question.
But are they not able to do that?
I didn't know the Weather Service was in the commercial software business.
You just said that it would be a big task for them to do that, implying that you think that they're not able to do it.
When did I say that?
I'm asking, was that the implication of what you said? Because that's what it sounded like.
No.
Is AccuWeather opposed to them being in the mobile space?
Mobile space.
Apps.
The last apps, yes, we are.
You are. And have you exerted pressure on Congress against them having apps?
Have we expressed our opinion just like any other corporation or citizen? Yes, of course.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
See, wasn't that easy?
No, it wasn't.
Hey, I'm going to call timeout before these two guys go start wrestling here.
No, I appreciate Mike being honest in his answers. That's real, because a lot of times people aren't, and I appreciate that.
No, that was good live radio here, but we're going to take a very quick break, and we're going to roll Professor Peters. We have Tony Rice in the Astronomy Report. We'll come back with the Weather Roundup, Picks of the Week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
While on a recent stop for our television station, I had a chance to speak with a pilot who asked a question about lightning from the top of thunderstorms going into outer space. This one type of lightning that most of us will never actually see firsthand. Called translucent luminous events, or TLEs, these are high-altitude lightning flashes rising above thunderstorm anvils upward into the ionosphere. These beams of light last less than a second and are not easily visible with the naked eye. Astronauts on the International Space Station have seen them while being above a storm. Coming in with various titles like sprites, jets, and elves, these discharges produce a much different effect from the usual lightning discharges to the ground. Unfortunately, not a lot is known about them because they occur between 50 and 100 kilometers above the Earth's surface, too low for most satellites and too high for most aircraft. Sprites are believed to be cold plasma phenomena that don't have the hot channel temperature associated with other more common forms of lightning that we see streaking across the sky and often downward to the ground. This makes sprites more like fluorescent tube discharges than lightning discharges. The first image of a red sprite was accidentally obtained in 1989, and the first eyewitness reports came in as early as 1895, but these reports were not taken seriously until the 1990s. Blue jets appear to emerge directly from the tops of clouds and shoot upward in narrow cones through the stratosphere. Their upward speed has been measured at about 100 kilometers per second. Since the air is thinner at these altitudes, the electrical fields are so strong that they can ionize the air molecules, much like neon gas inside a neon light. These are referred to as red sprites because nitrogen, a primary component of air, glows red. As the red sprite reaches the ionosphere, it often produces a diffuse glow, sometimes referred to as a sprite halo. So there you have it. I've always felt that lightning was pretty fascinating, but after the research on this segment, I want a trip to outer space to see for myself. If you have a question about the weather, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
14 years ago today, the Mir space station was intentionally deorbited over the South Pacific. 28 crews, including 42 Russian and Soviet cosmonauts, 7 visiting NASA astronauts, and 1 each from Germany and France, served aboard the station during its 15 years. This event could have cost Taco Bell an estimated $10 million in free tacos had debris from the space station hit the 40-foot by 40-foot target off the island of Fiji. While re-entry of a 10-ton object as big as Mir, the largest one deorbited since Skylab in 1979, is a bit unusual, these events in general are more commonplace than you might think. On average, 1 large man-made object re-enters the Earth's atmosphere each week. Of the over 17,000 objects currently tracked by the U.S. Air Force, only about 4,000 are doing something useful, with at least 1 functioning instrument on board. The rest are rocket bodies used to place those payloads in orbit in the first place, parts cast off during launch such as nose cones, hatches, or lens covers, and the rest all come from debris created when spacecraft collide, disintegrate, or explode. This debris will eventually re-enter as its orbit degrades. Smaller objects burn up on re-entry, and nearly all the larger objects that survive end up splashing down in the 71% of the Earth's surface covered by water. The Aerospace Corporation, which tracks recent and predicted re-entries, reports that 4 objects, all rocket bodies, re-entered during the months of February and March. Predicting when and where an object might come down is very difficult. Variations in the density of the upper atmosphere make precise calculations nearly impossible. Another 16 objects are currently being tracked for possible re-entry in the next few weeks. 15 of those are rocket bodies, but the 8.5-ton Chinese space station Tiangong-1 is among that list. It will certainly make headlines when it re-enters. This is currently predicted for some time in July. No word from Taco Bell if a repeat promotion is planned. On the more predictable side, the waxing crescent moon hung close to Venus tonight at sunset. As the moon progresses towards 4th quarter at the end of the week, it will meet up with Jupiter just after sunset, about 6 degrees away. Be sure to take a look. That's your Astronomy Outlook. You can follow me at RTP Hoagie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
All right, so yeah, and Mike, we are going to come back to you. Don't leave. If you have to leave, you can, but please
no,
don't.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, we've got all kind of stuff going on here. In fact, this is where we talk about current weather, and goodness, you know, we have had this severe weather drought this year, and to my knowledge, we have yet to have a tornado in the month of March. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's pretty stunning nationally. But it looks as though we have perhaps some chance of some active weather. We have a couple of slight risks, and again, we're doing the show on Monday, March 23rd, so we have a slight risk, really, Mike, close to you the next 2 days, right?
Yes, and in fact, I'm looking at some thunderstorms in northeast Kansas right now, and a newly developed area between Wichita and Salina, and I'm hoping that the winter wheat belt might get some decent rains over the next couple of days, but it will miss my house.
So your thoughts on April and May and June? You know, we're starting off with no tornadoes. What do you think the rest of the season is going to be like?
It's like the models are torturing us. It seems like the Hudson's Bay low and the Western North America ridge break down every day 9 and day 10, and they never quite do. But the models are starting to indicate some troughing over the western United States about 8 days from now and lasting out to maybe day 15. If that's right, the winter wheat belt should get some decent rain, which is badly needed for this year's crop. Now, if it comes during this period of time, the crop's going to be in good shape. If we miss it, we're going to be in not so good shape. I do think, though, there is going to be a period not unlike April 25th to 27th, 2011, where you get a multi-state, several-day outbreak. I just have a feeling that we're going to get a really, really bad period sometime in April or May.
That's what your buddy Joe Bastardi used to say. By the way, what are you and Joe and all those guys still pals? You know, they went off and formed Weather Bell Analytics. They broke away.
Ryan Maui and I get along very well. Once in a while, I'll get an email from Joe. It's business. You know, we were all very surprised when that happened, but it's business and it is what it is.
I hear you. All right, well, looking at the clock here, my time is getting short, so let's go ahead and roll the email segment next, because I have a funny feeling that Aubrey just might have 1 or 2 emails for us this week.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
Yes, I do have a couple emails, and I'll go to the first one because she just replied. Susie Grant posted an email, and our guest from last week, Kim Cross, was actually in Charlottesville over the weekend, and I got a message about her being there, and unfortunately I couldn't go, so she was able to go and meet a lot of fans and WeatherBrains fans, and the event was recorded by C-SPAN. So, and apparently she met some friends. And Brian, you met actually some friends of mine down in Alabama.
Yes, I was gonna tell you, they actually they came to a storm alert tour. They were the furthest people to come from Virginia.
Yeah, so on their so the anchor that I work with quickly, and his wife, basically on their vacations, they go to places that have become major. That's where they go, is places that have become major news events, and so they research and they kind of go and see what's going on there. And so they went to Tuscaloosa. And they had something else to go to and stuff, but they're definitely big newsies and big weather brain. They're definitely weather geeks. So
yes.
So yeah, that was kind of cool that you got to meet them. I know they were anxiously trying to meet James. And then also I got an email from Dr. Ken Hoagland, who also sent us a suggestion a couple weeks ago, that we have Kevin Clazel back on the show, which we've had Kevin before, but he actually has a different position now with Oklahoma, and so he sent another suggestion, reading a new report that suggests the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the AMOC, is weakening. So he just actually sent that in, so I haven't had a chance to read that article, and we have a couple more emails coming in. I know I had an email from Taylor asking about meteorology and how I got into the program, and exploring a little bit more about the program and meteorology as a field. And I think one of my biggest, when people ask me about meteorology, I always say, anytime you're trying to get into TV, have a plan B. No matter if it's journalism, whatever it is, you have to have a plan B. And my husband is kind of the working function behind that, because he had a plan B that he had to use. So it's never a bad idea. And then, how about this article from The Vane? Why do communities keep wasting money on useless tornado sirens? Care to comment?
No, that's a whole interest. That's a whole other show.
Another show.
Yeah.
Dennis Mesmero put that up on the Vane on Gawker, and I reposted that across social media, and that is a very polarizing subject. Sirens. It's almost like somebody should write a book, but in you know, we ought to do a whole show on that, but there are some people that just won't let those things go. They serve a purpose. They reach a limited number of people outdoors, maybe a few people indoors, not many, at least in my part of the world, and I despise them. It has killed dozens and dozens of people in my state. The mentality that you should hear some magical air raid siren in your home before a tornado. It doesn't work that way. And I am so sick of funerals on my watch. I'm done with them. And if I have to be cranky and you know, not nice and bold, whatever, I'll do whatever it takes. And I will fight that fight until the day I die, because too many people have died thinking they're going to hear a siren. So, yeah, that's a whole different show. But, again, I've got to go do some television news here. Aubrey, are you done anymore? Are we done?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll take your emails at weatherbrains.com. Send them in. Send as many as you want to. We'll read them.
We love them. And the greatest thing when you send us an email, Dr. John Scala's responses are so good. I mean, it's just, I can't wait to see John's response. But we're going to roll the fog bank, and then John, you or Aubrey or whoever, Brian, Kevin, pick the show up here. I know Kevin's like me. We got to do some television. But let's roll the fog bank. We'll come back with picks of the week.
Hello, WeatherBrains listeners. This is David Phillips. My first pick comes from spaceweather.com, who noted the arrival of a large coronal mass ejection and the resulting aurora. While we still have them, many of my picks are going to be aurora photos. This one comes from Astronomy Picture of the Day. Another one at spaceweather.com again of the St. Patrick's Day geomagnetic storm. How about a double eclipse of the sun? As the eclipse of March 20th neared totality, a photographer caught the International Space Station transiting the sun as well. This was at Astronomy Picture of the Day. SpaceWeather.com had a great video of the March 20th eclipse. And finally, the National Science Foundation YouTube channel has a video about a new radar system that can track tornadoes and other severe weather with higher accuracy. Thanks for listening. Skydiver out.
Interface complete.
It's always great, isn't it? Well, Mike, you probably know that we request a pick of the week. You may remember that from the times you've been on before. This is usually, that's a website or an article perhaps that you've come across, something that usually is meteorologically related, maybe not necessarily, could be astronomical. And we're going to go through the group and ask for picks of the week. We don't have Nate's news tonight. Nate is obviously not part of things, but before we get to the picks of the week, here's a question for you. What dual astronomical event occurred on Friday? Anybody know? Or anybody?
Wasn't it Venus and well, first of all, you had the spring equinox and you had the eclipse, and then you had a conjunction. So I think you had 3 on Friday.
You did. You got 3. I was thinking of 2, but you got the trifecta. Yep. Well done. Aubrey, pick of the week, please.
And speaking of, I'm still trying to work my telescope. I need someone to help me out with that. My pick of the week is a site about, springtime and the few days that we're getting here on the east that make us feel like spring. Everyone's anxious to sow those seeds, and you should not put your seeds in the ground. Do not start planting your garden. But you can start planting them inside, as I have started to do. So there's a great website where you can enter in your zone, your zip code, and it tells you which ones you can start inside a couple weeks before you can actually put them in the ground. So that is my website. So everyone, plant your own vegetables and may you be fruitful.
Good advice. I know later this week we're going to have a little tease of spring, and there's going to be this sensation. I got to go out and plant. No, wait.
No, that's when I'm actually going to spread my weed killer before the rain.
Brian, pick of the week.
Yes, we had a Category 5 tropical cyclone in the Pacific, tropical cyclone Pam, and I was looking around for information about it, both satellite imagery as well as what the impact of the storm was, and I ran across an interesting page on the Atlantic's website, some photos, and it has what caught my eye was that the very first picture is a fabulous satellite view of Pam. So I'm not picking it for the death and destruction. I'm picking it because of the first picture, but it also lets you know what kind of destruction they had over there in the islands. So that'll be my pick.
Understood. Understood. Mike, I'll let you go next if you got a pick of the week for us.
Well, I'm tempted to say the Amazon, www.amazon.com, where you buy my books, but I won't say that. I'll say my blog, which is MikeSmithEnterprisesblog.com.
Thanks, Mike. I actually looked at that. I know all about it.
Well, I have to say I know what I'm going to be reading on my honeymoon.
Thank you.
Well done. Get an autograph version.
Got it.
My pick of the week is of a historical nature. It's that time of the year when we move into the severe season, which also is a time of year when we're getting close to Easter. And I can think of several unfortunate Easter tornado outbreaks. And one occurred on this date, believe it or not, in 1913. It was probably the most extensive tornado to strike Omaha, Nebraska. And in fact, there was more than 100 fatalities that day. I think it was 94 of them in Omaha itself. So my pick of the week is a link to all kinds of information on that outbreak, including some tremendous pictures. So we'll put that on the website, as we do with all of our picks of the week. That's there every week, so you can scroll through and take a look yourself. Well, my clocks are going off here. It's 11 o'clock.
We can hear them.
I can hear them, right? I want to thank Mike Smith for another stimulating discussion.
Well, I figure if you're going to ask me a question, I might as well give you my genuine opinion, and you can sort it out whether you think it's good, bad, or indifferent. But I really thank all of you for having me on tonight. It's always a pleasure.
Well, Mike, thank you. And we know that when we ask you on the show, we know what we're getting.
Yeah. We appreciate it, Mike.
Yes, we do.
I'm John Scala. I'm not James Spann, nor am I anyone else on this program. This has been WeatherBrains, a weekly podcast that we issue 9:30 Eastern Time on Monday evening, 8:30 Central. We welcome your comments, your emails, and we thank you for joining us. Have a great evening, and God bless. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
My pleasure.
Mike.
Thank you, everyone.
So how is your weathercast, Kev? Hello? He's not talking to me. Say something, man. Oh, he's got no earplugs in. He's not even looking at me. Wow. Oh, Kevin. Hey, listen, I got a really early trip tomorrow, so we got to turn this thing off. Thank you guys for watching. We'll talk next week. God bless. Goodbye.